Aloha, hey, it's Julie Ziemelis, 365 Hawaii, and I'm with Keller Williams, Big Island, and we are here with Amber Haley from Real Broker, and we are going to be discussing the pros and cons of Lava Zone 1 and 2 in East Hawaii, and this is specifically for those people who are the ones who say, boy, I want to buy a house for $300,000 or less on Hawaii Island.
Yeah.
And we're going to tell you why that is sometimes not the best idea, but we're going to tell you why. So let's go, and we also have our live audience over here in Facebook land. So if you guys have questions, please let us know what they are. For you guys over here in YouTube land, if you have questions or comments, please drop them in the comment section and we'll get them answered afterwards. So let's roll into it. Pros and cons of Lava Zone 1 and 2.
Okay, so just a little context for anybody on here who's like a total newbie to lava zones and Hawaii Island real estate. Something I get told a lot by new off-island clients is, I don't want to live in a lava zone. But no matter where you live on the Big Island, you're going to be in a lava hazard zone. Right. So we have 9 of them, 1 through 9, 1 being the most risky, 9 being the least risky. So what we're talking about right now are the risky ones. So right. They consider that to be lava zones 1 and 2.
Right, and that is on Kilauea.
That, for the whole island.
Okay.
It's lava zone 1 and 2. But yes, lava zone 1, but I believe there is
2. Okay, so 2. Okay, just so you guys can have Mauna Loa can sneak down into South Kona.
Yeah.
Right, and so that's lava zone 2 too, right?
There is lava zone 2 and some lava zone 1, like in Ocean View. Some of the Ocean View, Hawaiian Ocean View estates is lava zone 1. Most of it is 2, but there is some riskier stuff. Okay. So when we're talking about lava zone 1. For all practical purposes, to my knowledge, that mostly means real estate that is directly like on a rift zone of a volcano, which we have some of the most active volcanoes in the world here, specifically right now, Kilauea and Mauna Loa. And lava zone 2 is kind of like considered like, I guess like downslope of lava zone 1. They might change these lava zone maps, who knows, as they've been kind of tweaked around in the 70s, 80s, 90s. They're kind of based on like oral Hawaiian traditions. They're obviously based on what the, volcanologists and geologists and all of that have kind of come up with.
It's probably based also on looking at the lava and going, that crawled right through here, I don't know, about 30, 40 years ago. Yeah. It might happen again.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically they created these lava hazard zone maps that just kind of to help the community and for planning purposes and all of that. One thing that I do like to point out to people is there's no like you would think maybe that there would be like legislation in place about maybe you can't be a developer and put a neighborhood on top of lava zone 1, but that is not the case. There are entire neighborhoods built truly on rift zones of the world's most active volcano. So something to keep in mind, there's nothing, just because you see a house and a neighborhood and property for sale, it doesn't mean like, oh, surely that couldn't be covered by lava. You can ask a lot of homeowners who lost property in 2018 in Kapoho and Leilani Estates, all in Lava Zone 1. Yep. So Lava Zone 1 and 2, you definitely want to be really, really educated about before you go in and purchase real estate. You really want to think about it. But not only is it just like the risk you want to think about, which is very real, but easy to kind of, put aside in our minds, being like, oh, probably won't happen.
Right. Well, but it does.
But it did, and it will again. But even if that's kind of what you're thinking, the 2 big reasons why you really want to be educated about buying in lava zones 1 or 2 are because of insurance, and financing. So if you got to get a mortgage, that's where it can get dicey. Right.
And if the mortgage company doesn't believe that house is going to be standing there for the next 30 or 40 years, maybe you should think about that too.
You should think about that. If they don't want to take on the risk.
Yeah.
Yes. So I will tell you that based on when you're watching this, you on the internet or watching live, we can tell you kind of what's going on right now. But this kind of stuff changes because volcanic activity changes. So any information we give you about insurance and all that could change in the future. But just know lava zones 1 and 2, it can be affected. So right now, there are ways to finance in Lava Zone 1. However, not everybody's going to be able to get a mortgage there. Not every loan program is going to work. And like I said, that could change tomorrow based on like what happens? You might not be able to get a mortgage at all. So, in fact, I did just talk to some of my colleagues this week, and, I've always had a lender who's been able to, for example, give a VA loan in Lava Zone 1 by kind of adjusting the terms of the loan. And then I've heard, oh, no, now nobody can get one. So that's going to be really variable. So if you are considering buying in one of these risky lava zones, it's really important that you talk to a lender quite early in the process,
right,
to see if it's possible.
Right,
for
and
you.
Also please talk to a local Hawaii Island lender, because
Yes.
they understand lava zones.
Yes.
If you're talking to some guy from Citibank in New Jersey,
Yeah.
they're going, well, it's just land in Hawaii. What the heck? And then as you get closer to the end of your escrow, they go, what? This is
Yes.
a risky lava zone. And so definitely, and again, one of the reasons we offer this information to you guys, we do have, 3 or 4 different local mortgage providers that we can give you the referrals to, so you can just ask. And also making sure that you're working with a realtor that understands the lava zones that they're working in. So, and I'm not trying to bash people and I've seen this happen, people from Oahu trying to sell houses in lava zone 1 and 2. They don't understand. And
Yes.
so,
unless maybe they grew up and really knew or did real estate there before. I mean, even a lot of real estate agents that work and live primarily in West Hawaii don't understand the lava zones as, much as those that deal with it every day in East Hawaii. So it is really important to get a local lender, like Julie said.
And a local agent.
And a local agent, because we would hate for any of you in the 365 family to be in the 11th hour of your escrow and have the deal fall through because an underwriter's like, lava zones?
Right, and they understand that was...
Yeah.
And then also, because this is happening, today's September 8th, Kilauea has been kicking up a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that makes people nervous when there's about to be an eruption on the island, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why things start to change sometimes.
Yeah.
Because Kilauea was quiet for a while, and all of a sudden people said, oh, I can lend over here. And then it started rumbling, and they said, no, we can't, right?
Yeah, I noticed some price drops in East Hawaii in some of the riskier lava zones this week.
Oh.
And I'm wondering and figured, probably those sellers were like, oh, I'm seeing the news about, more, activity at Kilauea. So that is something to keep in mind. I will not say it's impossible to get financing in Lava Zone 1. It is very tricky. Most of that real estate does go all cash because of those challenges. So have that conversation early if you're considering Lava Zone 1. Right. Lava Zone 2, it is a little bit easier, but it is still more challenging. For example, you might have to put a lot more money down for your loan program, and then the insurance obviously affects both areas. Lava Zone 1, you used to only be able to get insurance up to $350,000. It did bump up to $450,000. However, there are some over $1 million properties, believe it or not, in Lava Zone 1. So those property owners are taking on a very large risk.
Yeah.
Yes, and those insurance policies, they could stop issuing them if there's activity again. So it's just, there were a lot of people who did not have insurance, who did lose houses in 2018. And there's a lot of people who maybe their insurance just kind of got unaffordable for them.
Well, a lot of people also had Lloyd's of London, and Lloyd's of London decided they changed their minds after their house was destroyed to how they were going to deal with the settlements on the claims.
Yeah.
And Eric was saying that he recently talked to somebody whose insurance, Eric, was a Lava Zone 2?
Yep.
$7,500 a year?
Yeah, that's what it went up to.
Okay,
Yeah.
$7,500 a year to have
the,
that.
The national sponsor.
Okay, and if you're checking in from anywhere in the country, flood zone problems are happening with all the hurricanes. We've got fire problems in California and places that are prone to fires. So not having insurance on your house is a scary, risky thing. And I don't even know, because it hasn't happened to us, thank goodness. What happens if you have a mortgage and all of a sudden you can't get fire insurance or you can't get lava zone insurance? Does the bank call a note? I mean, I don't even know.
Like after you've already gotten a mortgage? That's a good question. That's a good question. And that's honestly, with people looking in risky lava zones, I like to connect them with local insurance agents up front too, to talk through hypothetical situations, and kind of give them at least maybe a ballpark of what a policy would be on a home like this.
Yeah.
Because, I don't have a license to issue insurance policies, and it changes.
Right, and it's happening across the
changes.
country right now.
Yeah.
With different insurance companies in and out of business, Yeah.
So that is something huge to keep in mind, because at the end of the day, when you're buying real estate, what it really comes down to for most people is your monthly payment of affordability. So you could find a much more affordable house, but if your insurance cost every month is quite a bit higher because you chose Lava Zone 2 instead of 3 or 2 instead of 4, I mean, the bottom line probably for you in your life is your monthly payment.
Yeah.
So you might want to factor that in, even if you really aren't worried about the risk of 2 and 3. And also, something a lot of people don't consider when they're buying these riskier properties is, what if, even if you think this is your forever home that you will die in someday, what if in 2 years you go and sell and all of the other buyers, they're going to face these same things. Circumstances in the market could change. The volcanic activity could change. Things will change. All we know is things will change. And so your buyer pool, when you become a seller of that property, could be really small, and that could put you in a situation. So that's like another risk you could be taking on.
That's true.
Is having a hard time selling a property after
especially
you've
when
bought it.
you almost have to have a cash buyer. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. In fact, that's the reason why the prices remain low and days on the market sometimes remain higher, because it takes a certain somebody who's willing to take that risk.
Yes.
To get those homes.
Yes. And I will say I am kind of seeing a trend of buyers from the mainland coming from really expensive markets, and to them throwing down $350,000, $450,000 cash on a property
it's chump change.
It seems a little like chump change, and they're willing to do it. However, I would say the majority of people are financing properties, and the majority of people who have that amount of cash that they can just
throw around,
light on fire,
literally
so to say, a lot of those people are in the higher end markets and going to put that down on a, you know, maybe a property in West Hawaii. So it is a very limited pool of buyers, although they do exist.
Yeah. So. And so those are a bunch of cons. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the pros. Okay, so there are a lot of pros, because you're probably thinking, why in the world would anybody live there? You guys just really didn't sell us on that. And I'm not trying to sell you on anything. This is just educating you. Mm-hmm. But the pros, it's incredibly, incredibly beautiful in a lot of those areas on the island in Lava Zones 1 and 2. There is something magical, truly every time, and I know I'm going to sound dramatic, but I do mean this. Every time I'm either showing property or going down to like Lower Puna, for example, there's just something about that area that just draws you in. And there is just a community down there. It's just stunning. If you've ever driven the Red Road down in Lower Puna, and it's just really off the beaten path. There's not very many tourists, although there are, you know, it's kind of a different type of tourist that will end up down there. It's a vibe down there. Gorgeous, tropical, like the weather I think is really idyllic compared to anywhere else in Puna. You know, you get rain, but you get a lot of sun. It's not too hot, like down by the water in Kona is quite hot. Yeah. Down by the water in Puna is just perfect.
Quite perfect. Yeah. So, you know, it's a magical place to live, and it's the property price itself. A lot of them very, very affordable, which is also really appealing.
So if you, let's just say, because, you know, I don't know. Okay, let's say you have some money, and you say, you know what, well, and the good news is, because some people don't understand the difference between shield volcanoes and the volcanoes that have pyroclastic flows. When they go off, we don't have the dangerous, you've got 2 seconds, oh my God, you're going to get buried like, you know, Pompeii. If there's something that's going to happen, you know it's coming. Nobody's ever been, I don't think too many, maybe 1 or 2 who didn't get out of the way fast enough have ever been, you know, run over by a lava flow. It's usually pretty slow.
Yeah, it's usually pretty slow.
Yeah, so you might be standing there watching your house go up in flames. But some people are putting their homes on movable.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Right, so that way if the lava starts to come, they can just put their house on a movable experience, like a tiny home mobile experience, and just move their house off the lava experience. So there's ways of doing that, and you can own your own piece of land in Hawaii, build a home that is able to take off if Madame Pele decides to come and visit. And so there's that. And also the fact is that if you live in Minnesota and you're freezing your butt off in the middle of winter and you own your little piece of land in Hawaii that you can stay for 3 or 4 months, and you're sitting in the jungle going like, woohoo, while everyone else is freezing their butts off in Minnesota, you can do that too.
There you go. Yeah. So pros and cons.
You still own the land after the flow, too.
Oh yeah. So as Eric pointed out, if the lava covers your land, you still own it. And if you go down to Kalapana, there are people who are basically living on the land on the lava flow. But that way they can build a house right on top of the lava.
Yeah. And just a fun fact in case you're curious, because like the 2018 eruption, for example, added a lot of acreage
Yeah.
to the Big Island. We're a growing island. A lot of extra land. The state of Hawaii owns all of that land. A lot of people ask me that. They wonder.
They wouldn't have that one. In fact, I don't know how much of this really actually worked because I wasn't. In 2018, when everyone was losing their homes, 700 people lost their homes, 750 maybe. That people were like, well, if they can't rebuild again because it's like now like completely, I mean, it's completely surrounded by lava. That I heard the state was doing land swaps.
Yes, I heard different things about that, and that's probably going to be something that's like always a work in progress and always changing based on the circumstances. But what I will say is, like, the last time we saw that eruption in 2018, there were a lot of people who were selling for, like, dirt cheap. Like, right away, immediately.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of crazy. Stuff has, like, returned to, like, quite a few real estate transactions, and people are buying in there again.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there were a lot of people who definitely lost out financially a lot because of that risk. But, yeah, different programs and different things like that with the state, like, yes, there's been a lot of different things thrown around. But that is something that I think will always be changing, just like the volcanic activity and what
because
gets
these
taken out and what-
these natural disasters, you never know what's
Yeah,
going to happen. But also with the concept of a lava flow. This is horrible. But at least if you live close to the lava flow, you can get really famous on CNN. They'll use your land. And also, when we were in Volcanoes National Park, a guy was saying, "Come see the lava," and literally the lava was like going like this around his property.
Yes.
And he was making a small fortune taking people on his own land to go see the lava on his own land as it was coming through the back part of his land.
Well, there
and
you
that's
go.
how we got a chance to actually
You
see
can be a
live
lava entrepreneur.
You can be a lava entrepreneur. So,
potentially, if Pele has that in your future.
that's exactly right. So, therefore, you can get cheap land, and you don't have to. If you want to like not think about having it forever, you can at least own a piece of Hawaii.
Yeah.
But then, if you are an investor who believes in the concept of investment over long term, don't actually get lava zone
Yes.
1 or 2. Maybe get lava zone 3 or 4 and above, right?
Yeah.
And if they want to know more about houses in lava zone 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can get a hold of Amber, who will give you a listing alert so you can actually see what you can get. When you're scrolling through Zillow, you probably don't know what you're looking at. That's
Yeah.
the reason why.
For lava zones, especially.
They don't say what
Yes.
lava zone is on those.
They don't say. And I will say, my general advice for most buyers is if you can afford lava zone 3 and up, that is where I would recommend buying.
Yeah.
But if you, for whatever reason, maybe one of the reasons we talked about, you feel the magical pull of a risky lava zone part of the island, or you just love that cheap price tag,
Yeah.
or whatever the case may be, as long as you know what you're getting into, then we can help you buy real estate there. But we just want you to be
There you go.
educated.
Yep. And also, I'm going to tell you guys real quick. If you look at the topographical map of Big Island, you can actually see different lava flows, and sometimes they even put numbers what year they were flowing.
Yeah.
The lava flow that took out the area that became Leilani Estates took out the whole area in 1955.
It's not that long ago.
No, it was not. And then, this is almost exactly what you're telling me. So in 1955, taken out, and then investors started buying the land and selling it to people who didn't know what the hell they were buying. And then they started clearing the land. And then the next level of investors came in and started building those beautiful houses. And so before the eruption, there was a lot of California investors who were buying, who had these beautiful houses in Leilani Estates. And then lo and behold, ta-da, the lava flow comes through again and takes up part of the neighborhood. It's the reason why it's risky, guys. 1955 was not that long ago. And
Yeah.
it basically almost followed the same path and then went beyond that. So if you look at the topographical map, you can see the fingers of black, and you can see how it has like shaped the entire island. And it's
Yeah.
still happening.
And maybe find a resident who lived through that to kind of see what their experience was like, because I've heard some firsthand stories of what it was like the week of the eruption, and it sounds pretty intense.
Yeah.
Just
Look,
they could feel the lava moving under their house, basically.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they couldn't breathe because of crazy wind experience. I mean,
Yeah.
like the lays or whatever. So if you don't believe us, go to YouTube and type in 2018 eruption on Hawaii Island, Leilani Estates, and you guys can see some actual pictures.
Yeah, let us know if that surprises you that so many people live there. Is that surprising information? I'm always curious because
Yeah.
I would think it's kind of surprising if I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, yeah. But when the lava zone area is completely covered in tropical foliage, you have no idea what's, I think it's
an illusion.
It is an illusion. Like here on the west side, you can see the 1850 flow, and it looks exactly like it did back in 1850. There's no vegetation. There's a little bit of vegetation on it, but on your side of the island,
It's magical, tropical.
big tropical
green,
goes right over it.
Green, beautiful houses, friendly people. What could go wrong?
Everyone waving at each other. There's rainbows every day.
What could go wrong?
Okay, so again, if you guys have more questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments. And that was very fun talking to you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Amber. And we will say aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha.